It's flawless.
Hey there, this is Stephanie Freeman with Share Your Strong, and March is Brain Injury Awareness Month. And as you know, if you followed me, you understand that brain injury is very important to my life because I am a 28-year brain injury survivor. In 1993, I was involved in a car accident and I suffered a brain injury that almost took my life. I lived 2 months in a coma on a respirator because of that injury, and I wasn't given any hope of ever surviving. However, I did. And when I came out of that coma, when I realized who I was sitting in a wheelchair. I had my head hanging down. I had spit hanging out of my mouth. I remember like it was yesterday, lifting my head, wiping my mouth, looking to this side, looking to that side. And the 15-year-old in me that day said, "Stephanie, get up, what are you doing?" So I tried to do just that. I unbelted that wheelchair and I fell to my knees at that floor. It was a very humiliating moment for my life, but it was and it has been a very defining moment for my life. And fast forward 20 years later, I was involved in the Boston Marathon bombings. I wasn't running, but I was there. And I didn't see any tragic events or anything, but I say that my brain, the chemistry of my brain was completely different after that day, because I flew back to Georgia the next day and I was suffering some of the worst PTSD. I was having dreams when I would sleep. I was having visions and hearing things. Well, I did what I knew to do, which was get active. Even though I was experiencing terrible fatigue, I started running more and speaking, writing, and I got through that point. Well, I was doing some modeling then, and I got a contract for a tennis wear company. And Scott Obrien, who I'm speaking with today, was the owner of that company. And I wanted to speak with him today because he has a lot of relevance to my story. That day, I was out on the tennis courts. We were doing the pictures. Scott was taking the pictures, and he gets a call from his wife to come pick up their son. Well, he was frustrated and he said, okay. So he said, you scoot up to Starbucks and I'll swing back by and pick you up. Well, I was like, okay, I'll do that. So 20-30 minutes later, Scott pulls back up and I bebop out to his car, and he was frustrated in the front seat about what had just happened, that his work was interrupted. And I didn't pay any attention to him. I flipped back and look in the back seat. And that moment, ever since that moment, my life has never been the same. It was a good moment, but I looked in his back seat and his son, 8-year-old son, was sitting in a car seat. He had his head hanging down. He had spit hanging out of his mouth. The exact memory that I have. And he was sitting like that because he has had a brain injury. And I was able to grab Scott by his hand and say, it's okay. I know this situation way more than you know. And seeing that, I knew that life was pointing me in the direction I needed to go, because that's the day, after that day, I started my nonprofit work, and I have kept in contact with this company for what now, 8 years now?
Yes, yeah.
And I wanted Scott to talk about the brain injury of his son.
Certainly. I know it was 8 years, but I remember like it was yesterday. So, yeah, Davis is my fourth son, four boys. So he's got obviously 3 older brothers, and yeah, when Davis was 1, he had normal everything, normal pregnancy, was doing everything, was just starting to pull up and just starting to babble and just normal 1-year-old stuff. And I took him to get his 1-year-old vaccination shot, didn't think anything of it, same pediatrician, same everything as his older brothers, never had any issues whatsoever. But next morning I went to work, left a little bit earlier than usual, and his mom called, and when something horrible happens, you just sense it, it, tone of their voice and everything else. I knew something was wrong. And but basically, when she went to get him out of the bed in the morning, 7:30, 8 o'clock, he was in a massive seizure and convulsing and barely breathing, and literally blue in color, like they say. So she had my oldest call 911. He was probably 10 or 12 at the time, and so ambulance came. I turned around from where I was heading, and as it all worked out, basically just met the ambulance, followed the ambulance to the hospital, and it was just, in the beginning, it's just surreal. You know, we've all watched the medical drama shows on TV and ER and that type of stuff, and that's what it was like. It was a big room and just a bunch of different doctors and nurses and us and a little 1-year-old sitting on the table. So, it was life changing. I mean, it was that moment of, you know, this something's going on here, and we ended up spending about 3.5 months in the ICU at Children's Scottish Rite here in Atlanta, and it's been a journey.
Yeah. How is he doing?
He's doing good. He, you know, fast forward, he's 15 years old now.
Yeah.
So he's still handicapped, you know, still severely disabled, is in a wheelchair, has a feeding tube. We just recently in August did a real massive back surgery where they literally just fused his whole spine from neck to pelvis together. A lot of the brain injuries, what happens for whatever reason, they don't really seem to know that. Almost like your wrist will turn in, but the back will start to turn and rotate. And so his was reaching a point where we really needed to do something because it starts to interfere with organs and even him just sitting upright. You know, when your back is so twisted, you can't sit upright. So we did that surgery. They told us it was probably going to be 6-7 hours, ended up being like 8 or 9, but everything went great. Literally the next morning, the nurse came into the room and was like, all right, let's get him out of bed, get him in his wheelchair. And I thought, are you crazy?
Yeah.
You know, so, and we did. And it was one of those magical times where for the first time in 10 years, not that long, but first time in a long time, when even after having massive major surgery, he sat upright in his chair because his back was nice and straight. So
awesome.
I was all good up until that point, and that was the moment where it was just like, you know, so
yeah,
it was good.
Awesome.
But he's doing good.
So I'm not a big fan of the word or the saying everything happens for a reason, but this happening, everything I believe happens has good in it, whether it's bad or good.
Yeah.
And Davis's situation was very impactful for my life, and he has helped me to push myself into a more purposeful life, and I know he's played such a role in your life and pushing your family that way.
You know, it's any kind of major tragedy, you know, it's easy to find all the negatives and crawl in a hole and never get out. But for like your story, you know, what he helped you with, it's no different than us and his brothers. You know, his brother. All of our lives instantly changed that day.
Yeah.
You know, we've all heard the term, your life can change in a blink of an eye, and all of a sudden one day it does.
Yeah.
And you realize that, wow. But it's formed his brothers into the people they are. It's helped form you into the person you are. It's helped form me. You know, different things. And so yeah, I mean, sometimes you have to look for those positives, but they're definitely out there.
They're there. And one of Davis's brothers, the situation Davis has had, it has pushed him. He's going to be a neuroscientist. So it has good in it, but I've kept in touch with this family ever since 2013. After that tennis contract that I did, Scott has began a new denim business where he is making jeans, and his family asked me to be a part of that whole project.
Yeah.
And if you're interested in checking out Scott's story and everything, and this is a beautiful story, y'all, assetsdenim.com, and when you're on that website you will see the Stephanie Freeman brand. Grab you a pair. But I appreciate y'all for joining me, and I send everybody so much love. Stay strong, y'all.